Jordan here. In today's video, we're going to be discussing how to go about integrating your shadow as a man. We're going to discuss a little bit about what the shadow is, how some of the deeper reflections can be very powerful, but also they're not the full story, and how the most simple thing that you can possibly do to integrate the shadow is actually something that is in plain sight, but can oftentimes cause a lot of confusion and a lot of resistance, which is why it's so powerful. So I'm coming at you here from the beautiful green fields in New Zealand. Feels like home. I'm originally from Ireland. And as I've been here, I've been reflecting over the year of 2025. This year for me has been incredibly challenging, not in a negative way, but in a way where it's helped me grow in a lot of different ways. It's helped me expand into a higher version of myself that I wasn't allowing for a very long time. And the reason I share this with you is because the shadow aspects of myself were constantly coming up, and that's why it was so challenging. So let's first of all talk about what that really means. The shadow aspects and how that shows up in our lives, especially as men, is really the unconscious parts of ourselves, right? The subconscious parts of us that are running our behavior that we're not really aware of. And because it's called the shadow, this comes from a Swiss psychiatrist, Carl Jung. He came up with this concept that it was the darker part of the psyche. The psyche is made up of the conscious mind and the subconscious mind, to keep it simple. So when we look at the parts of us that are suppressed or repressed, it's really the fear, it's the anxiety, it's the sense of shame, it's the sense of guilt, the things that we kind of pick up throughout our journey and that we enter into this human experience with, that are here for us to dissolve and integrate, not to run away from them. But that's what many people do, and what I did for a very long time as well. For a long time, I would run away from these things. I would see those things as negative, and I never want to experience fear. I want to get rid of the fear. I want to get rid of the overthinking. I want to get rid of the mental loops. And that's a natural tendency for us to do because it's a negative thing that we want to just push away. I don't want those things. Let's go towards the good stuff. And what I found in my journey is that to get to the good stuff, we got to actually walk through the path of the, perceived negative stuff and see the light within it. So when we look at these darker unconscious parts of ourselves, it's really the things that cause the reaction in life, the responding to triggers and feeling overly emotional about certain things, getting attached to certain things. All of these different feelings, they come from a root of not feeling enough, or not feeling like you're worthy of the things that you desire, or not feeling like you are in perfection the way that you are. You feel like there's something wrong with you. You may feel like you need to be fixed. This was the case for me for a long time. I went on this journey of improvement because I believed that there was something there to be fixed. Now, think about that for a second. When we're talking about integrating the shadow, we're not talking about fixing ourselves. We're talking about becoming a full embodied version of what it means to truly be you in all aspects. Because the more that we run away through achievement or ambition or fixing our body or fixing our mind or fixing our emotions, the more that we go on that path, the more that we actually continuously feed the rejection of a part of ourselves. And how that then manifests is that we start to live from this identity that we have constructed that is not really who we are. It's just a part of who we are. It's a part of us that we've built to actually protect this part of ourselves that we don't want the world to see, right? So when we go on this path, we start to understand that there's more to us than meets the eye. And for me, this was a challenging journey, especially when I was getting used to this. But as I went deeper into reflecting and asking the right questions and doing some shadow work, reading some books, studying Jung's work, I was aware of a lot of different aspects, but the integration process took quite a long time. So when we're looking at the integration of the shadow, what we're looking at is we're bringing these suppressed and darker parts into the full expression of who we are. Now, that doesn't mean that we live in fear. It doesn't mean that we live in shame. It means that we see the fear, we see the shame, we see the parts of us that need care, and we give those parts of us love. Love is the answer. It always is. But to learn to love the parts of ourselves that are considered negative, or not enough, or not worthy, is a challenging thing, because what we're doing is we are learning to love the darkness. We're learning to love the negativity, because we actually have the power to pierce through the illusion of what they truly are, because they're not really us. They're not the true essence of us. So when we're on this path of integrating the shadow, what we're doing is we're bringing these parts of us over and we're integrating them into who we are by learning to love them. But that also can be a journey that is painful at times. For me personally, I've had many moments of doing the reflections, reading the right things, and studying these different aspects. But was there any real change that occurred? Not really. I went on this hamster wheel of consuming information and intellectualizing everything, but there's no change. You just know more stuff now. What I found to be the most profound thing, and which is what I really help men do today as well, specifically inside of our dojo experience that you can check out below if you feel called to go deeper on some of these things, is to be able to sit with the emotion underneath the surface of what's really causing the friction and the resistance in life that blocks the things that we want to bring into reality. Because that's what the shadow does. Because when we're not the full expression of ourselves, we can't receive what we're meant to receive, right? So a simple thing is, first of all, uncovering what those things are. What are the patterns? What are the beliefs? How is this showing up in my life? How do I pull those out of the way, which is our phase in our dojo called deconstruction. You're pulling the things out of the way. As you pull these things out of the way, you start to uncover more of the truth of who you are, what you truly believe, who you really are, what you're really capable of. Not what you think you deserve, not what you think others think is the best thing for you. None of those things. We move them out of the way. We start to uncover what it truly means to be you. But along that journey, there's going to be some aspects that are painful. There's going to be maybe some things we got to work through from childhood. There may be some things from our teenage years where we felt a certain way about a relationship or an experience that we had, and it caused this perspective that is now limiting us, and we rejected that part of ourselves because we thought it wasn't worthy of our time. It's bringing all that into coherence. It's learning to love it. And sitting with those emotions can be challenging when you're not used to that. We're not taught how to manage our emotions these days. I got a message from a past client today, and we were discussing just some changes that have occurred in his life. And he started to talk about a previous experience that we did, which is called the identity reset. The identity reset is where we use breath, we use meditation, we use hypnosis, we use these different aspects to uncover all of these aspects that are unconsciously running the show and let them go and dissolve them. And we can do it in one session. But what happens afterwards is the integration of these things. So he was referring back to this recording constantly. And every time he would have a new perspective. Why? Because when you pull these things out of the way, you pull the thread and you eventually start to get to the core. When you get to the core, what he discovered was incredible, because he could start to see that underneath any anger or resentment or frustration was just this deep sadness. Because that's usually what's underneath the surface when it comes to the shadow, when it comes to these emotions that we're unwilling to feel. And I know this was the case for me as well. The more I got to the core and pulled the other things out of the way, the more I was able to sit with the emotion that was underneath, which is usually a sadness. It's usually a feeling of not being enough. And this is a touchy subject for many people because we don't want to admit these things to ourselves, but it's part of who we are. And that's okay. It doesn't have to be wrong, because the more that we believe that it's wrong, the more we reject it. But to be the fullest expression of who we are, we bring these things together and we learn to love them. So when he was referring back to this experience, what he was doing was expressing emotion that had not been felt in decades. Just suppressed, pushed down so deeply under the surface, they didn't even remember that it was there. So we had to pull these things out of the way to be able to get to that, to be able to feel the emotion. And if you look at something like crying, if you look at something like shaking your body or moving, or the gym or whatever, you're moving energy. When it comes to crying, if we look at that as an example, that is actually releasing negativity from your body. When you release negativity physically, your energy shifts. You're releasing an emotion, because the emotions that we felt that were challenging or negative, we're not supposed to store those in our body. We're actually supposed to let them go. We're allowing ourselves to just feel an emotion, and it can pass in 90 seconds if we just allow it to. But we hold on to it. We don't let it go. We're just like, no, I don't want to feel this. So I'm going to shove it to the side. I'm going to never look at this. I'm never going to never address it because I don't want to feel it, because it's negative. But that's where things get stuck. That's what forms the patterns that then manifest physically in our mind: overthinking, procrastination, self-sabotage, the loops that we experience. We're constantly stuck in our head all the time, constantly feeling anxiety, because emotion is energy in motion. It gets stuck, and when it gets stuck, it causes these things higher up in our body. So when you release those, you let it go, you get to the root. the mental loops stop, they dissipate. They may not go completely, there may be other things to let go of. And the idea is not to just remove all of these things, it's to get to a place where you're understanding how this works. You're understanding energy, you're understanding how this is being able to be dissolved in its own way. And the most powerful thing was just feeling the emotion. But I understand that that can be challenging, especially for me, it was very challenging in the beginning because I intellectualized everything and I had stuff pushed down so far deeply under the surface, I couldn't feel anything. I was just in my mind. So I had to break through the layers. I worked with a coach, I went through different programs, I was working with someone consistently on these different things to get to the root, to feel the emotions, to let them go, and to be able to rise as a byproduct of that. And if we look at the shadow on a deeper layer, it's the thing that causes all of the wars, the violence, the abuse in the world. It's these, because this ego construct starts to get formed around the suppression of the part of ourselves that we're not allowing to be seen, to be loved. So it becomes this expression of what seems to be hate, neglect, pain. It's where a lot of the stuff comes from in the world. So as we do this work as men, and as we walk this path of integrating these different things and seeing the simplicity and what can play out, and we allow ourselves to be vulnerable in those areas, we actually change the world as a byproduct. Not because we're trying to fix or save the world in any way, but we're just doing the work ourselves. We become a fuller expression of who we truly are. Abundance flows as a byproduct of that. Your environment changes, your work changes, everything changes because you're no longer living from the unconscious pattern of the deep suppressed shadow underneath the surface that's running the show and doing that without your consent oftentimes. So as we walk this path together, we have the opportunity to embrace the more negative parts of ourselves, to bring them into full expression, and to allow ourselves to just be okay with the parts of us that we may not love fully, to learn to love those parts of ourselves. And then from that place, we move forward, we progress, not because we're trying to force things and we're trying to change the world or fix everything because we're stuffing this away, so we need to move this way to get away from it. A lot of achievement and ambition is just the shadow disguised as personal development and growth, but it's just running from something. So when you stop running is when you actually receive those things without really doing anything. I've seen this in my life as well. It's really weird when it happens. Things will just come to you. I haven't figured it out or mastered it by any means, but I've seen it play out. The more you integrate this darkness, the more you receive the other things, which is the light. It's the principle of polarity. Everything's balanced, up, down, left, right, hot, cold, light, dark. We live in a dualistic world. So the more that we acknowledge this part of ourselves, the more that we bring this into existence too. We experience the full spectrum of what it means to be a human being. And that's pretty cool. So anyway, I hope this gives you clarity around the shadow. This integration process is powerful. And if we can walk this path as men, we will change the world as a byproduct of it. And if you want to get support in this, you want to go deeper on some of these aspects and really do this work yourself, surrounded by conscious men who are doing this work as well, living their mission and purpose, check out the dojo. You'll be able to check the first link in the description below. I'll see you in the next video.